All right. Hello, and welcome to a brief Unity tutorial. We're going over the basics of Unity, as well as so what all the tabs do, what every situation here means, as well as how to make a basic scene and get it built into your build settings. So to start off with this, we have here our hierarchy, which is where all of our game objects will be. And for those of you that don't know what the objects are, game objects are just about every encompassing object that will be in your scene when you're using Unity. That includes light fixtures, cameras, cubes, spheres, pyramids, geometric shapes, planes, as well as it also can incorporate different video and backdrops and media options. If you are to go to your hierarchy and to right-click, you are able to create empty objects, which are ones that are meant to hold or store other things, such as grouping items together. You also can create 3D objects, 2D objects, different effects, lights, as I was saying before, audio, sound files to use like door openings or to follow the player when they do different things, as well as video, UI, like health bars, on-screen pop-ups, dialogue, title screens, credits, and cameras as also before. Below that, we have our project folder, which just has everything that we've imported into our game, but that is saved. For this, currently, we are doing a sample scene, which is the default opening scene. It'll just have the one scene we're currently working in under our scenes folder. But you also have the ability to right-click in here and create a plethora of things, including scripts, shaders and materials, more scenes, folders, and a lot of other things that we could go into details of, but are a bit more complex once you get past the material section here. Other than that, we have our toolbar up here, which is to help you work through Unity and get everything running and functioning. You have your files where you save everything. You can export or save things. You can open projects, save your product or your scene individually. You can also build and run your game to see if you're to test it out. If you want to like make an adjustment and then test it to see if it worked, you can build and run your thing here. You can go to your build settings, which we'll go to now, which is where you can add your currently open scenes to your build, which allows you to build it and save the entire all open scenes as a .exe file or whatever file you would like, depending on what you select down here for the platform. Under Edit, if you don't know the hotkeys for how to use Unity, you can access all of the hotkeys through here, as well as the other options in the toolbar, such as the play option, pause option, and skip option. Game objects, similar to here for right-clicking. Instead, you can go to here if you cannot access. If you don't have the ability to access right here, you can go to the game objects section here instead. However, any of the drop-down menus, once again, and you have the same options that you would have over in this area. Component, also similar to the same thing as to here, where you can right-click there and add in different effects to a specific game object. Window, these are actually other windows that you don't currently have open here. Currently, in mine, I just have my scene, game, inspector, project console, and hierarchy. But if I was to want nav mesh animation, I could go down to here to my window option. You can go down to any of these other options here. But for me, if I was looking into doing something different, if I wanted to add in anything at all that I didn't have currently here, I can add in. I could add in right here. Well, these are already open actually. I could add in the animation window, which just showcases and allows you to add any animations to any objects on screen. So if you want to put a cube down, move it 3 paces to the right, you would put the cube down, start the record, move it to the right, stop the record, and then apply the animation to your cube. And from there, your cube would keep going from left to right. Unless you put it in a loop, it will go left to right once, not again. But if you have it loop, it'll go left to right once, then back there instantly, left to right again. But that is also more complex animation stuff. Going further into the basics here, we're going to create a generic scene here. We're just going to make our platform to be a plane. Now going into objects here, we'll go a bit more detail into objects. Your tags, which is how you can select what each object actually is. For this, it is nothing currently. It is just a plane. But I was to make, right-click here, 3D, a capsule, positioning, which is currently off. You want everything when you start making a scene to be at 0, 0, 0. That puts you at the default middle of your scene, and then they can adjust it. If I was to do this, make a capsule, and I want it to be the player, I could tag it as player right here. And that'll allow me now to, when I'm writing code, search for this tagged object and utilize this tagged object universally with any other object in the scene. It could be a million objects in the scene, but as long as there's only one player and I have all of them on off that one player, they will all function properly. Let's click here, which is our light. You can toggle this off, and it'll remove the 3D lighting, so we can now just get a better, simple view without the extra showcasing the shadows. If you want to see your shadows here, you can also look at that here. But from here, we're going to grab our plane, work on the scaling of our plane. Our X and our Z are what we're going to focus on mainly for this. Our Y is, of course, the height. So just our X and our Z is all we've been working on right now for this. Make an open plane. We have our player here. We're going to rename this to player. We're going to click on the player. These are all the components that we saw here that can go into a player. Here's where all of them are. However, we're going to add a component, and this gives you the option to search things up here. Add a component, we're going to give it a script. A new script, and we're going to call this new script test player. From there, you can go to the script right here, double click, and if you have Visual Studio, it'll open Visual Studio for you, which I do have. If you do not, I'm unsure what will happen. I believe it will install Visual Studio or open any other programming functionality or programming application that you use. For me, I run Visual Studio, so I'm going to try to open up my Visual Studio here. There we go. There you are, Visual Studio. Going to Visual Studio, the basics of it, you have up here is what your script is currently using. If I wanted to have my script, if I wanted to have my player script, you'd be able to change scenes. I'll be using Unity Engine .scene management. Now allows my scene here, or this script, the test player script now has access to changing scenes. Void start, which will happen as soon as the script begins. Oh, there we go. As soon as your game is started, the first thing that will happen will be in void start. So as soon as it happens, we'll record once. We'll make a debug log, which is how you check things over in your console. It's a great place to test things is the console. We'll make a debug log, quote it saying, I have started the player. End it off with that. Update frame happens every second. Well, this happens once. This will repeat every second unless you have a conditional saying, if the player's health is 0, then print out this new thing or have this occur. But for right now, make another debug log that says, I am not I will do I am infinite. Because technically this will be infinite until otherwise. And now we go over to back to our game. It'll save our script automatically for us. If we press play here, it'll record I've started once right here, because it only happens once at the start. And then I'm infinite will go on infinitely because there's only no stopping. It just happens every second, or sorry, every frame it happens. And then you see here, it'll keep going and going and going because there's no current end to the script. That is the basics of the two main functions of Unity, or Visual Studio using C#. I'm going to another more interesting thing is you can create your own functions. You create a function called public void, and it could be called testing. That. Yeah, this one be debug.log I am finite. Oops. And now we can do this right here. No, look like that. I am finite. And we'll have it do over here. Will be an interesting thing to do with I am finite. Here we go. We can do this right here, which will start going to the variables again. We'll make a new public integer called counter. We'll have on start counter equals 0. We'll have on update counter plus plus. That means that now every frame the counter will add. Now we'll have also if counter, our first if check. Remember, if you don't put a conditional, which is if would be a conditional, if counter equals 100, we're going to move our I am infinite. If it is greater than or equal to 100, else our next conditional, it will do testing. Here we go. Now we press play. That went really fast, actually. Wow, hang on, that went by really fast. Let's give it a bigger number. How fast 100 can go by? We'll give it 10,000. Try this again. Press play. I am finite. Keep going up. Started player. I am finite. It's still finite because when it gets to 99999, it'll cease. And I am infinite begins, and it'll continue infinitely now because we are past this conditional for this one, and I am infinite has no conditional, so it'll go on forever. That's a basic check of conditionals in that, and you can use conditionals and your own personalized functions to do whatever you wish to have. For me, it was just a simple integer, which is a number, a whole number, that was called counter, and it was set to 0 at the beginning. Of course, I could set this to 10,000 right at the beginning, and it will automatically start off with I am infinite and not ever go to I am finite. But yes, I just did a simple integer called counter, had it set to 0, had it update or add 1 every frame, and when it reached a certain number, which could be anything for you all, it became the new function of I am infinite. Otherwise, it would have I am finite, because this one is, of course, as you know, would have an end. We're going to press Control S, which saves all, or you can go up to here, save all. We're going to close Visual Studio now. I'm going to clear our console, shrink it down a bit. There we go. Zoom it out. We'll go to our windows here. Let's add in something important. There we go. Under AI, navigation. This file or section right here called navigation is where you'll handle your nav mesh agents and all nav meshes in general. If I was to go over to here, the plane itself, currently the layer, this right here, the static, it should be navigation static, which means that if you're on this, it will not move. It is a constant object and will always be in the way of navigating. Now, if I bake this here, this blue area that's being highlighted, is the entire area that something with a nav mesh agent could move across. If I was to make a capsule called enemy, I was to give it a nav mesh agent to roam this area, which we won't do that right now because it's important. It'll only roam this area. If I was to make it roam this area, but also look for the player. And if it finds the player, go towards the player. It would be, as long as this player's on the nav agent, it will go towards the player. I can showcase that in a second here, actually. But if I move it off the nav mesh agent, it would follow the player to the edge of this boundary here and then stop, because this blue line is as far as it'd be able to go with the current nav mesh agent. As I'm showcasing the basics here, let's go on to show you what can be done in Unity given about 3 to 5 days of time. So we're going to Control S, which saves everything here, but it's in case. Go to File. We're going to save our scene. Go to File, save our project. And remember what I said before, if you want to have something in your build when you run the actual game, go to your build settings, add open scenes, and now when I load this game as a .exe file, the very first thing it'll load will be this, which is important to know that if you want to have a title screen up there, you would add your title screen as an open scene, and then you have to drag and drop it to the top, so it'll be the first thing that loads in your build. Take one more time. We're going to open a new project. One moment here. Here it is. Give it a second to load up, and I will showcase you what can be done in roughly a month of time with a proper thought and process behind it. Here we are. This here is a game I worked with a student in the past, doing a Unity trial lesson for them. Currently we have, which I will show you, the nav mesh agent. If our player, now the player has functionality, it can walk, it can, not look around yet, but it can walk, and it can access objectives. Let me read them. We have enemies that only function on the nav mesh agent and currently track towards the player, not leave the nav mesh agent. I'll showcase what we've done, and I'll go over how each of the things work. Currently, let's put the player here. Our player has a health of 10. The enemies, when they attack you, have boxes that deal damage. The student and I decide to make a health pickup that gives you your health back. Let me get out of here first. Give it more damage. Ow. I'm spinning out. Oh no. Grab my health. I go into here. The door. Or the control was, actually, to get this done. It's been a while since I've done this. Hang on. I open the door and escape. How to open the door and escape? I forgot how to do this again. Is it enter? I forget. However, let's go to the script now and show you how all this works. First, our enemies. They are nav mesh agents. So it is humanoids, as the default one everyone gets. That's all they need really to work on a nav mesh. They have colliders, which is as a trigger. This collider trigger is the box they use to detect when the player is near and when they can deal damage. They have rigid body, which gives them their physics, their gravity. And they also have their script. The hurt zone, which was that box that appeared around them that did damage to the player was. They also have the player, who just constantly grabbed from the hierarchy, so they can always move towards the player. And then this agent is blank. But at the start of their script, which I'll showcase now, the first thing they will do in their script is they will grab their nav mesh agent and set it as their nav mesh agent. Then they will also, as long as their agent is on, they will look towards the player and move towards the player and put a log in this wheel that's happening that I am chasing. As long as it's saying I am chasing, we can know that this function is always working. I have subcategories everything here to these small sections we don't need right away, but I will showcase it as well in a second. Called player interaction. You need the rigid body for collisions. So when the enemy collides with the player, it'll turn off their nav mesh agent and say, I have caught them. When the player exits the collider or stops touching the enemy, it'll reactivate the agent, turn off their hurt box, and say they got away. When the player enters the trigger zone, which is which that circle was, it'll activate the area that hurts the player. The region I've done just call it region, which what I did there to showcase that is right here. Region test. Here. And you do this. End region. And when you click off of it, you now have a region called region test. And you can minimize that to organize. And now here is gone. Open it up. Here is there. But I don't need that here in my script, so I'm going to leave that. I'm going to the player script. Don't save. Both enemies here have the same occurrence. The health pickup. All we did with health pickup, we took the variable of hurt zone. Instead of taking away health, we had this sphere when you enter the collider of it. Instead of taking away health, it gives you health. I will showcase that as well. Here we go. First, the hurt zone damage script. So first we have our bools here, which are basically true or false statements. Integers, which are our whole numbers. And public game objects, this is just for game objects. Of course, scripts do count as game objects. So we had the script here, get the player's movement script. We had it set a private bool, so nothing else outside of this script can access this bool called damage, and a public bool called is heavy, which is how we can classify which enemy is which. On start, it finds the object player movement and sets it in the player movement section. On update, means every frame, it checks the player's health, so that if the player's health equals 0, it'll reset our current scene. If the enemy is heavy every frame, the damage it does on the hurt zone is 3. Otherwise, if it's a normal enemy, which we only have 2 enemies currently, the damage it does is 1. When the player enters the trigger, it activates a thing where after getting the player movement script here, it'll access the player movement script's player health variable, which I will go showcase now. player movement. The player's health, it'll access it from here because we did allow it to be public int player health. It grabs the player health, and if you enter the trigger, which is the hurt collider, it'll take the player's health and subtract the damage. Damage being this private integer, which can be set here by either heavy or normal. Going into the health pickup, which is very similar to the damage one. It is the exact same script. It always checks the health to reset. However, now when you enter the trigger zone, if the player's health is equal to 10, nothing happens because 10 is currently our player's maximum health. However, if it's less than 10, it'll add 2 to the player's health regardless. So if your health is at 9, it'll put your health back to 10. If it's at 8, back to 10, 7 to 9. However, this one's different, where if the player's health goes above 10, it'll just set it back to 10 because 10 is our maximum health. Player movement, which is a bit more complex, which we can go over real quickly if we do have time, is simply getting key codes. Under update, if you press the W key, it'll transform .translate, which is just moving this transform positioning. The translate is how it's a method of movement. It translates the X, Y, and Z. Well, I guess for this one, yeah, X, Y, and Z across whatever vector 3, which is the 3 cardinal directions, left, right, or I guess, yeah, 3 cardinal movements, which would be forward, up, and side to side, X, Y, Z, our vector 3, X, Y, and Z. It moves it across the vector 3. Currently, W is set to forward, so it moves it across vector 3 forward, times the speed. We have speed set here, a public float. Speed currently is set within our player script itself. We set it manually because we can do that. We can adjust it whenever we want to. Times time dot, which basically just removes the lag. Time dot removes the lag and allows it to move in real time. Same thing with A, S, and D. Those are controls. On to the last bit of functionality, which is our if check we did before. Go to our building here. Let's go into our door, into our door win script to show you conditionals and how they can function. It's E, that's the command. There's a trigger around the door, same as the enemy one, where if you enter the enemy's trigger, they would activate their damage barrier. However, this time you enter the door, it'll tell you that you've made it to the door and that you can escape. If you press E on the door when you get to it, you will escape, and it'll load the next scene. Simple enough. But also, the hook here, you are getting the player as the other object that can enter the trigger. Only the player can access the door. Nothing else can. If you're not tagged as the player, if you went over before, the current tags. Remember, only the player, which is player tag, we also have one player currently tagged, can access the door. We're going to run over to the door. And since we are the player, I am chasing is the debug. We have for enemies that know the player's there. Press E. This level is incomplete. We go to our new level. Lastly, what I want to showcase, since we are running low on time here, is the ability to link objects together. As you probably have seen, the ability to link objects together. This drop-down menu is every object that is linked to the same object. The larger one that holds the drop-down is the parent. Everything below that is the child. That is how they are worded in the technical lingo of this stuff, or of programming. I'll go to our players. Easy way to show our player. Player is our parent. Everything in this will be the child. Currently, there's not a lot in player other than the shades for how we know which is facing forward and the camera. You can link the camera to the player so that when you move the player around, here, I'll do a second screen. When you move the player around in the scene menu, the camera will follow it, as you can see in the game menu. To also showcase NavMesh agents here, I forgot to turn off I forgot to freeze his Y value. Yeah, I don't do. Press play, rigid body, freezes Y position. Uh-oh, he's spinning out. But look, they cannot leave the NavMesh agent currently. I knocked him away. Hang on, let me press again because I broke that real quick. Let me freeze his X and his Y so he can't rotate anymore. When I back him off of here, they're not able to leave the NavMesh agent at all. They can follow me across it as much as they want, but they can't leave it, especially before. But yes, parent and children objects basically mean that whatever you do to the parent, the game will do to the child as well. If you move them, they will move. If you change the scale, they will all have their scale changed. If you make the parent into a prefab, which I will show you prefabs, which are objects that you can just drag and drop into the scene, and they'll have all their strips already done for you. Kind of like copy and pasting in an enemy in a simpler game. If you drag the parent into the prefab, it'll drag all the children there as a prefab as well. That is usually how prefabs work, how parents and children working, how parents and childing work for this. And it is one of the other components of doing all the work here. Other than that, I have just simply, as I said before, I've prefabbed this building because it is our main objective building. I have parented all of it under, the building's walls are all parented under the building in general, which is an empty game object. The play zone is an empty game object that has all of the play zone in there. Enemy, of course, is parented. It has a bit more to it, of course, because it has the hurt box. Has its hurt zone, its head, and the body, which is the capsule. Same thing with our smaller enemy. And of course, under my build settings, I have my test level, which is this one I'm currently on, and level 1, which is what you saw before. Because when I went to the next level, if you saw the strip before, so I'll show this strip again before we close out. When I walk over to this door, and I press E, you may wonder how it loads exactly. Well, the way it does that is by down here, it checks the scene manager, and it goes to the load index, which is basically, or sorry, the build index, which is basically the indexes, of course, all the levels that are currently built. This is the build index. And it goes, well, what's our current scene in the build index? Oh, it's scene 0? Well, just add 1. And it loads the next scene. Of course, you can have it load a very specific scene if you would like to do that instead. But for me, in this type of game, it was just to load the next scene. That is the basics of Unity for this tutorial. We've gone over parenting, childing, nav meshes, variables, game objects, cameras, basics of scripting, and conditionals. I'm going to end this lesson here, this brief tutorial. And of course, I hope this was informative to those of you watching. Hope you enjoyed. And if you're planning on working in Unity, I do wish you the best of luck. And I will see you all in the future. Have a nice day.